One of the more intimidating part of this panel is that I'm the only one who needs introduction. But the thing is, this session, this is our second year doing this, as in for the Tech Forum, but for this year, we want to make it something special, especially where all the founders are here, and we wanted to have a little more intimate conversation on their thinking for what their companies are and what the innovation and their personal struggles. So I want to make this session a bit more personal because these are all founders who has been at the forefront of what is made. So so I will just let everyone do the introduction because it is I think everyone has gone through a bit of a different story in starting. So I'll let Suri first, right? So perhaps, since the mic has been given. So tell us about yourself and what is Carousell about? What does it stand for? Yeah.
And first and foremost, thanks for coming and apologies. I know you were supposed to meet Ankiti here, who's a way more amazing founder. So I'm just the token replacement today. So my name is Suri. I'm one of the co-founders of Carousell. So we're a company that started accidentally almost because we just wanted to build an app for ourselves that solved the problem for ourselves of just making selling simple. So if you've got something in your life that's underutilized and unused, can be a shoe, can be a bag, can be a Rolex watch, or can be a car, or your I guess a pram or stroller, you can just take a photo, put a title and a price and sell it very simply. So we started about 7 years ago, made our parents very angry, but fast forward 7 years, we are very privileged to now serve a community of millions of people across Southeast Asia, Hong Kong, Taiwan. Now created over 200 million listings on Carousell, facilitated more than 70 million transactions, and it's been a tremendous privilege, and we still think there's still so much more for us to do. And we exist as a company to inspire even more people to start selling, and with each of those transactions, creating more possibility for people.
Thanks, Suri. How about Wenxiang?
Hi, my name is Wenxiang. Firstly, I don't qualify myself as a startup founder anymore. Like I've already exited. Just get that out first. These are the guys who are still actually grinding and toiling away. So so I started Zopim back in 2007, 2008. At that time, I was still a student in NUS. All the founders of Zopim were students at NUS who went for the NUS Overseas College program. And so we started Zopim. It was started off as a live chat software for small and medium businesses. And what we really wanted to do then was to enable every small business out there to provide excellent customer service to delight their customers by using our software. And at the time, all the alternatives to live chat were like either crappy or they were for large enterprises only. So we saw a void in the market and we wanted to fill it. And so we created Zopim. And then fast forward 7 years later, in 2014, we were acquired by Zendesk. It's a customer support and CRM platform company. And so now, 5 years on, I'm still working in Zendesk. I'm one of the founders that stayed on, and I'm leading the engineering teams across Singapore and parts of San Francisco, and we are building, we are doing very exciting work on sort of building the next iteration of what Zendesk is going to be for the customers.
Okay, it's the first time I attend the English forum. Okay.
Doing just fine.
Okay. Okay. Everyone don't want to say he is a founder because more founder, more responsibility. Okay. I graduated from Peking University and get a computer science master in 2005. After graduate, I worked in Thomson, Microsoft China, and Alibaba for 6 years. And 8 years ago, I joined YY Inc. And be a software architect, and I worked all the way to be a GM our innovation department. In November 2014, the board decided to spin off the department to newly set up a company in Singapore. It's a Bigo technology. After that, from then on, I am the co-founder and the CTO of the company. About 2 years ago, I'm asked to manage all the streams of the company. Now Bigo have more than 2,000 employees globally. Last year, we achieved a total revenue about 550 million US dollar, and with market valuation over 2.1 billion. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, you, Jason. So there are a few things that I wanted to. I have some questions for you, but before I do that, right? I just also want to make the content a little bit more relevant for the audience. So can I, if anyone has burning questions, shout out some keywords, whatnot, and we'll see how we can incorporate some of that into that. So anyone? Any thing that you want us to cover? If not, I have a few, and we'll just go from there. So okay, I'll give. All right, come on, shout it out.
Taking the product idea and then executing it out into. You had the idea. What was the process like executing it out into something more tangible from like a corporate point of view?
All right. So I think let's go with Wenxiang. I think he has some pretty good story on that.
That question applied to Zopim would probably be the antithesis of how you do a startup. So how we began, the journey was really over a dinner conversation between the founders, and we were all NOC students here. And so, like for anyone who's moved anywhere, you go to a place, you buy a ton of stuff, and then when you're leaving, you got to sell all those stuff, right? And at the time there was no Carousell, right? There wasn't even the smartphone era then, so it was just Craigslist. And for anyone who sold anything on Craigslist, it's irritating because you would put a posting there, and then you can only leave your phone number and your email, and then when you urgently need to sell something, you're like, please call me, right? And so over dinner, we all needed to sell our car, or table, or beds, and then it was like, if only we could put instant messaging on Craigslist, wouldn't that be great? Like, we can just embed instant messaging on Craigslist, and that was the spark of Zopim. And so at the time, we thought we were building instant messaging for people who want to sell things online. That's what we thought it was, right?
It could have been Carousell.
It could have been. And
I thought you were describing our story.
No, so true story is exactly what happened. And so we hacked up a prototype, made it such that if you embed a little snippet on any web page, you have this little window where you can chat with the owner of the website. And at the time, we thought it was instant messaging for businesses. What we did not know was that there was an entire industry out there called live chat that did the exact same thing. We thought we were the first and the greatest, and we did zero research. We just thought that it was, it was new and innovative, right? Which turns out it was. But so we got the idea, we built a POC, and then when NOC ended, we had to go back to Singapore and start studying for tests again. And so that the idea just kind of stewed there for a bit. We didn't do anything about it. And then one day, Tim Draper of DFJ, famous VC, was in Singapore, and we kind of crashed the event that he was at. And I just walked up to him, pitched the idea to him, and like said all kinds of things that even today I'm not sure we can totally do. But yeah, so that happened, and he was like, "So how far are you from launching?" And we're like, "Oh, 2 months, 2 months." That did, all BS, right? We had nothing at the time, and I remember at the time was actually like the exams were coming soon, and so he was like, "Okay, great." So I went back, I wrote a follow-up email, didn't expect a reply at all because most of the time you don't get one. And the reply that we got was from his assistant, scheduling a demo 2 months later. And at the point, all we had was a POC that was really not a product. We don't have a website. We haven't even bought a domain yet. We haven't come up with a name yet. So that's when me and the co-founders were like, we got to do this, right? Like, screw the exams, we got to do this. So we holed ourselves up in in a container, like literally a container in NUS, in a room in a container, and didn't do anything, didn't sleep for 2 months, and came up with Zopim, pitched it to him, and obviously he did not fund it, but that kickstarted the entire idea. And remember how I said we did not do any research? Like at the point when I pitched it, we still had not done any research. So it was maybe week 3 of building the thing. We were like, is anyone else doing this? Then it was like, there's a whole industry out there. Our largest competitor is a public company. But that turned out to be our secret weapon because we did no research, we did no validation. We reimagined what live chat would be. And we created something totally new. And that turned out to be something the market, there was a market void that we indeed filled. So to answer your question, like all of that product ideation to becoming a product was entirely an accident. Like none of it was really planned for.
Well, yes. And how did you come up with the name Zopim? I had a hard time pronouncing that.
So it's antithesis of how you should name your company. Zopim is a terrible name. We came up with the name in 20 seconds, had about 2 years to change the name, and we didn't, and we regretted it for a very long time after. So exactly how we came up with the name was, remember I said we thought we were in the instant messaging business, right? So the first name that came up was Zep-IM. Zep, why Zep? I don't know. It's like lightning fast IM or something like that. So first name that came up, Zopim, domain taken. What if we change the A to an O? Oh, domain available. So we bought it. And even then, we did not Google what Zopim meant. And true story, in the first year of Zopim, because we had no namesake at all, Zopim is actually the short form name for this antidepressant called Zopimet that had terrible side effects. So if you Google Zopim, the first few pages are all about terrible side effects of this medicine called Zopim. So terrible name, but turns out still worked in the end. Turns out names maybe not that important. I don't know.
Yes. So how about Sarah? You want to share how you start your first prototype of Carousell?
Yeah, sure. I think he described our founding story already. So if you guys were at the panel earlier that I was on, and actually talks about our heroes, and just hearing his story really just reminds me of why these guys were the true pioneers. And hats off, man. Anyway, so for us, like how we really got started was in some ways also almost quite accidental of sorts. So for us, me and Lucas and Marcus, like when we really got inspired by Silicon Valley and just wanted to explore technology, like the first thing we did was like, if you wanted to build technology and solve problems, that you got to figure out how to build technology. And so this is when we, I just hold ourselves up in the room and started learning how to build apps. So this was a time in 2011 when everyone was on their phones, and there was this technology called jQuery Mobile that promised this future of you just write code one time, it goes on iPhone and Android with just phone gap. So we're like, damn, we're going to build mobile, we're going to build Solomo. And we iterated on some ideas. And in true learning how to code and actually build apps, we figured like the best way to kind of learn it is to build something that you wanted for yourself. And this was a time when we grew up buying and selling on other platforms. There was no easy way to sell it on using a mobile phone, and it's really difficult to sell. If you guys are in Singapore, you would have used Hardware Zone or Club Snap or Craigslist equivalent. It's like not easy, right, to post a good listing with a photo. And then we decided to just build this app that allowed you to take a photo, put a title and a price. And on the topic of names, actually the first name of Carousell was actually storeroom.me. It was a coding project. We had a lot of things in our life, sitting around unused. You normally chuck them in a storeroom. It's like a terrible name on hindsight. But we just needed a placeholder name for a project. So it was called storeroom.me. We later then joined this thing called Startup Weekend. It was a 54-hour hackathon. We actually joined it in some ways for fun, just to have a compressed time period to accelerate the project that we were already building and learning. And so on Friday night, we pitched the idea, and the definition was actually called, or the idea description was a dead simple way to sell your wares. And we were picked the last team out of 20 teams to be selected to work on the weekend for Startup Weekend. And we only got in because 2 teams dropped out, and so we were the token team to get in to be worked on over the weekend. And on Sunday night, we presented a demo and a prototype. And turned out at that time, because we had a Launch Rock landing page and hundreds of people actually gave us their email to say, like, I want to be notified when this launches. And we had a couple of people that tweeted us to say, could I download this app right now? So that kind of gave us the confidence to say that we were onto something quite meaningful. And this was April 2012, when I was just finishing up my exams. And that gave us confidence to make our parents very angry and do this full time. So, I had given up I had dropped out of my honors year at that time in NUS to do this. And Lucas was still a full-time student, but I think he became more full-time entrepreneur and part-time student after that, because he was just spending all his time working on this. And actually Marcus left he was really working for a few months in Oracle, and he quit to join us also. So our parents were actually really, really upset when we started this. But on hindsight, it's been such a rewarding journey.
Yeah, the thing about it is that this brings me to my question that I had, right? Which is, after having this first prototype, what I'm always wondering is, basically entrepreneurship and innovation is about failures and perseverance, right? But it is also about breakthroughs. So I want to know about for your first breakthrough, right? That after building prototype, I'm sure there's a long gestation period when you're a bit struggling, having self-doubts and whatnot, but there will be a certain push that allows you to have a lot more confidence. So I want to know about the first breakthroughs that each one of you went through. So perhaps maybe Jason, you can start. Yeah.
You mean
The first breakthrough that you think.
first break? Okay. The first breakthrough about Bigo is the broadcasting app, that is Bigo Live. I think maybe someone has used it. Because before we launched the app, we have tried free internet forms, and we failed. Okay. So just back to it's not easy to do a startup. But if you tried a lot, maybe we can start. We can success. For Bigo Life, we just because we have a very good R&D ability we solved the problem faced by the global streaming system. So Bigo Life grow very, very fast. I also interpret what is Bigo. Bigo is before I get old. yeah. Because before Bigo, for myself, I failed in 2 startups. One is when I was a student in the second year of master study, and another is after I quit from Alibaba, I failed in another startup, and the first product of Bigo we also failed. But if we continue to do things, we can success. After Bigo Live, we do like, which is a short video app. It is several times large than Bigo Live. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Wenxiang, how about yourself?
So we were 4 college kids fresh out of school, right? And when we started, we thought we were building like a cool consumer app, right? And then we quickly realized we're actually we're selling to businesses. We did not realize that we were going to sell to businesses. So when 4 young college kids with zero working experience in software sales and like in the enterprise B2B space try to start something, it's kind of daunting, right? And I think, to a certain extent, like all of us, like the 4 founders, we all had some form of imposter syndrome, and for those who don't know what that is, it's a kind of phenomenon where people are very accomplished people constantly feel like they're a fraud or they are like, an imposter, like they aren't as good as they really are. And so for a long time, for the first 2 years, we created a product that was free. It was always in beta. We got actually quite a few thousand users who were using us for free on their websites. There was a significant amount of traffic that we were getting already. And we never charged the customers. And there wasn't a good reason for it either. Like we just thought it wasn't good enough. Why would any business pay for this software? And it was sort of like internal fears, internal insecurities, and we also sucked at raising money. So we had very little money, and so like we kind of debated on how we were going to launch pricing for a really long time. And around the second year, maybe 18, 20 months in, like we were pretty much all out of cash. Like we were personally all down to like less than $100 in our accounts. We were like, okay, if we don't launch pricing now, we are just going to go out of business, right? And so, after months of research and debating about what the best price is or what the plans will be, it was like half an hour. So, okay, first plan, how much, right? Okay, $9 sounds good. All right, $9. Then next plan, okay, let's throw in one $99 plan that no one would buy, but will make everything else look better. And also, it was completely random pricing. Like seriously, there was no basis in how we priced the subscription plans, right? And then the day we launched pricing, our growth at that point was already stagnating, even for the free users. The moment we launched pricing, our growth just became exponential. Like it became like 200-300% a year just because we started pricing. Turns out, businesses want to pay for services. Who knew? And like businesses did not want to use software that was free, but like we did not change anything in the software. It was the exact same thing that we actually made worse because we put like subscriptions and like limits on the software, right? It became a worse product actually when we put pricing on it, and that's when everything grew. And so for us, that was our breakthrough. Like we just needed to launch pricing. Yeah.
There are some businesses that don't want to pay, so Sulin wants a free version, okay?
Only for you.
Yeah. So the question is around breakthroughs, right? So one of the things about Carousell was that, when we first started, like we had a really, really good start in the first few days. Pretty much that was it. So because of Startup Weekend, there was a lot of anticipation for Carousell to launch because most Startup Weekend projects or hackathon projects don't really go on to become a company, but we were actually going to make this like real, actually go launch this for real. And when we started full-time development, it was May 2012. For 3 months, we were just building the first version of it. And then 13 August 2012 was when we actually got approved by the App Store and we went live. So the press covered us, and we also launched on campus in NUS, so the National University of Singapore. And very quickly, by day 2, we were actually the number 2 shopping app. But actually, all of that was short-lived for many, many reasons, right? Our servers were melting, we didn't have an Android app, we were marketing as the marketplace you love. So we were speaking to everyone, but we were really speaking to nobody also. So one of the things that we also built was this really cool feature for ourselves. So every time when someone signed up, you get a push of how many users signed up that day. it was really exciting for the first few days until the end. So remember we launched on August 2012. This was December 2012. Like me and my co-founders, we work at Block 71. If you guys are familiar, that we go to food court because we work like 2 shifts a day, right? So morning to dinner time, we go have dinner and we come back to work until the last train. And as we were walking back from Fusionopolis back to the office at Block 71, we all looked at our phones together. We got a push. And we all looked at the phone and we saw this notification of how many people signed up that day. And it was it was 8 p.m., 4 months after we launched, 7 users signed up that day. And we were like, hey, maybe we can go and build apps for other people, right? Because people have been praising the app was pretty nicely designed and whatnot. And obviously we persisted because one of the things that we did was also emailed every user who signed up. And we asked them, where do you hear about Carousell from? And we found out that the users that really loved us still, and there was about 400 of them who used us every day, they were actually very young, very female, buying and selling fashion and beauty products. So in January 2013, what we did was we decided to just refocus on making this segment love us. So we launched our Android app, we fixed a bunch of bugs and issues, improved the usability and launched an Android app. I think I talked about it already. And the most important thing that we did was just really focus on this segment. So we've always had this ambition that we want to build a product for everybody. But we decided that it's much better to make this 100 people love you than thousands of people kind of like you, right? So just reading essays from program and all that. So we tried that. And for the entire year of 2013, we just focused on fashion and beauty. Young girls, 15 to 24 years old. And me and my co-founders actually learned how to curate items, like what do we know about fashion? But we wrote blog posts about the top 5 peplum tops or top 5 little black dresses. Like we anyhow pick, but it kind of seemed to work. But you just got to do whatever it takes to serve your community well. And by January 2014, we were actually #1 shopping app in Singapore. At the time, we still hadn't spent anything on out-of-pocket marketing expenses other than going to the NUS printer and printing out full color posters for free, hundreds of them, and pasting all around school and giving out as flyers. But the word of mouth effect was really powerful when you actually really made an audience loved you. And when we started towards the end of 2013, we started getting all these emails to hear about people actually saying that I heard about Carousell from my niece, my daughter, my colleagues. And that's how we cross-pollinated to every other category. And today we've got half of Singapore signed up, 1 in 4 people in Singapore use us every month. And it started from being really laser-focused on one segment. And I think on hindsight, it's much better to really start with a small segment, serve them really well, and then grow from there.
Well, those are really interesting stories. So now what we have here is that we have the prototype, first product, your breakthrough, right? So now we need to go forward a little bit, and meaning that Jeff Bezos is famous for saying day one, right? So there's always something to do, something to innovate. So what I want to hear from you is, what do you think what is innovation for you? What does it mean for you? It's for you to keep doing what you have done and to push forward, right? And at least in Bay Area, it seems to be highly correlated with free meals and pool tables. And but for you, what is it? I mean, in Singapore, I think that culture is not as strong yet, but although they have been trying to bring it, but within your own companies, right? How have you been doing it? So perhaps maybe we can come back from this way. So Siri, you can start, and we're gonna let Jason.
I think for us, I don't know how innovation is really used, but I think for us we have an insane focus on the mission and our users and making selling really, really simple. And one of our values at Carousell is solving problems. The reason why Carousell got started in the first place was we solved our own problem. And we believe innovations will come if we stay insanely focused on our users, our customers, and actually solve problems for them. So one of the things that we try and obsess about is how do we get selling even simpler? And 6 years ago, we pioneered mobile classifieds worldwide to make SnapList sell. These guys could have pioneered it, almost. Thankfully, they didn't because they're an amazing team. And 6 years on, we actually imagined how can we make it even simpler? Why can't this be a 3-second process? So one of the things that we try and do is, what if we could create this future where you just take a photo and your listing is entirely created for you, beautifully done up, title, price, category, description is all populated. And we're making baby steps there. So today, if you sell something on Carousell, we already suggest a category, we suggest a title, we suggest prices. We haven't suggested descriptions yet. Eventually, maybe you don't even have to go and chat with other people, and we can, help you actually chat. So these are things where we just want to make the simplest process that works, and it's so magical that it inspires even more people to start selling. I think innovation for us is just constantly having this insane focus on users and solving their problems to get to your overall, I guess, mission or end vision of how you envision the world to be.
So Suri's answer was exactly what I was going to say, is focus. But what I would add is that it's very easy to lose focus. Like, especially as the company grows, your team grows, focus is not something you can take for granted. And I will just admit that at some point in Zopim's history, we did take our eyes off the customer. We stopped asking what the customer really wanted. We stopped asking, listening to the voice of the customer and actually using our product in a meaningful way that helped us become actual innovators again. And this fatigue, like, I don't know, maybe you guys are young team full of energy.
We have also dropped the ball.
Yeah.
But we have good people around us that remind us to have that insane focus.
Yeah, and managing that focus is a constant work. It's very easy to lose a few months and where did those few months of focus go? And in the end, for us, what we sort of reinstated a few things, for example, dog fooding, making sure that everyone uses a product. And so one example of the thing we used to do was we called it serving party, because at that point we had hired a team of people in the Philippines to help us man our own software as support agents to support our customers, right? And we made it such that it used to be a lot more frequent, became once a month, everyone would do it. Founders would be doing it as well. And we didn't, it was only when we were supporting our own software, using our own software, that we realized how hard the job was. It's really hard work. Then there are problems and the requests are coming in, customers are difficult. Understanding customers who don't speak native English is difficult. There are all these problems that we only realized after, adopting the personas of the people who use the software, right? Who actually, especially as a software as a service, the people you sell the software to are not always the users of the software, right? And so having the empathy to step into the persona of the users who are using the software and empathizing with them, right, was to me how we managed to continue to innovate. It's just so easy to lose that focus when other things start coming up, and you have to deal with this problem, deal with that problem. Suddenly, we haven't actually talked to a customer for a few months. Right? And I think we learned that the hard way, and after that we instituted processes where this was part of our development process, and it's what really worked for us.
Okay. I think the first breakthrough is very lucky, just lucky. But after the first breakthrough for innovation, for my company, we have a very big platform R&D team with full technical stack, such as, for example, app development, web, AI, big data, and some video, audio, something like that. Just like Suri said, that we should focus on the user. So we have more than 20 offices globally. So the operating offices can find what the user need to get the requirement from the user. Then we have a very strong develop team to develop the product. the R&D team, we have more than 800 engineers. And I think in the same size, our same size company, we have the best development teams. Okay, thank you.
So right now, I'm going to open up the floor again to any question that anyone might have.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. I'm Catherine. I have a question kind of about the funding ecosystem in Singapore. Have you found particular investors or funders who are very helpful in your journey? Or what would you wish was different about the situation there now?
Maybe I can start. I think two investors, or two or three, come to mind that have been super instrumental. The first ones was when we were really starting out, and I think the first investors that, or actually investor that really helped us out was actually Vinny Laurier, who was actually first a mentor, and then eventually an investor who recommended that we actually raise the round. So he's from Golden Gate Ventures, he's a founding partner there, so that was our seed round. And then eventually we brought on a great syndicate of Rakuten Ventures, 500 startups and some angels. I think the second investor that was really instrumental in our journey was actually Sequoia Capital. So we're very fortunate. So Shailendra is the managing partner for India and Southeast Asia. He was stopping by Southeast Asia, and we lucked out for a afternoon meeting with him, and it was quite last minute. So morning we asked if we had time to go and meet with him, and they were going for some recruitment event, and we were all in our berms and red t-shirts. That's how we kind of banner ourselves and promote ourselves. And then we just showed up at Paragon to have coffee with this guy called Shailendra Singh, and it was like, let's not blow this, right? And so we shared the story, we shared our metrics, and within 15 minutes he actually said like, hey, we'd love to partner with you. And like that was kind of mind-blowing, and I think we didn't believe that he would like to, and he used that term to kind of invest in you, to want to invest in you. So I think we didn't quite believe that. And then a week later he was like, hey dude, I'm serious. So he flew back into Singapore again, asked us for a meeting, and like so that happened. And then in our Series B round, Rakuten led the round, and we raised 35 million, and that was probably one of the largest Series B rounds ever in the ecosystem in Singapore, right? So and we're very grateful for that, because at that point we were still actually pre-revenue as a company. And to have actually someone who has that much conviction that we will build a very enduring company and meaningful company in many years to come was actually very encouraging. And honestly, if we wouldn't have been able to build a company with such meaningful impact at scale today without such investors supporting us. So we really lucked out on investors who really believed in a longer term vision. And I think it's really just our right timing where these guys were starting to look at the ecosystem as well. What I'd like to see more, now as we keep moving into the later stages, like Series C, Series D and beyond, I think there'll be more investors to help fill up that gap that there is today. Fortunately, unfortunately, Carousell keeps hitting that new boundaries of what funding is, and I think we'll pull through, just because there's so much more interest, and I think more importantly, just fundamentally such huge potential in the region that more capital will come.
So I have the opposite experience. I don't know if I mentioned earlier, we sucked at funding. We truly did. We effectively raised $50,000. And it wasn't for the lack of trying, right? But although just to be fair, when we started, the ecosystem was virtually non-existent at the time.
We were lucky.
Yeah. So when we started in 2007 and 8, there was not much of a seed funding. iGEM, the scheme from IDA just started. And so Dr. Lily Chan from NUS was pretty much the only person who funded us. She saw this 4 guys lurking outside the office, and it's like, okay, let's just give them a chance, And so that 50,000 lasted us almost 2 years. Obviously, we weren't paying ourselves much or any at some point. But yeah, that's one thing. Zopim just never did well. We failed to craft the story that could raise significant interest and to raise funding. And actually, there was a period of time where me, Royston, and we would actually be taking turns to base ourselves at Silicon Valley for like 3 months at a time to try and raise funding, and we just failed at it. We were miserable at it. And at some point, we decided to just stop because it wasn't working and just focus on the business. And like really shortly after we made that decision, Zendesk came knocking on our door. So in a way, it was a good thing. Like because we failed to raise anything, like we owned practically the whole company at the point of exit.
He's very rich.
But yeah, like I think the right now how I see the ecosystem is that we are now again at a phase where like sort of seed funding has kind of dried up again, right? Like I think because of all the guys like this who've been raising the bar, like the Series A now has a lot of money, like Series A onwards, but we aren't seeing, sorry about that, we aren't seeing a lot of activity in the seed space, and I think that's a pity. So I'd like to see more of that. But yeah, shout out to NUS, really, like they were our best investor, and they, best and only, but they supported us in so many ways. Like we didn't pay for rent for almost 2 years. They let us raid their pantry whenever we were there. Really pretty much fed us, flew us to Silicon Valley for like opportunities and whatnot, and never told us what to do, which it gave us space to execute on that vision. So yeah, shout out to NUS, and that's really like NUS, the NUS Overseas College Program, that whole ecosystem has really given birth to what we have in Singapore today. So shout out to them.
Okay. For Bigo, the business is global, so we don't depend on the ecosystem only of Singapore. We depend on the global ecosystem. But Singapore is our headquarters, so the position and the environment help us to do the business better. Yeah, we like the environment of Singapore. Okay. For the investment, just like Suri said, do things good, the capital will come. Okay, thank you.
All right, we have a question at the back.
Hello. Thanks, founders, for sharing your 0 to 1 and 1 to 1,000 kind of story. That was really inspiring. I have a question, which is, I didn't attend the earlier session by accident, but I was interested to know how companies in Singapore can potentially scale from 1,000 to like millions and tens of millions, and whether a company which starts in Singapore is actually set up for success in that manner, given that Southeast Asia, despite being a huge growing region, is like very, very diverse, very fragmented. Yeah, just wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
All right. This is open, so whoever is ready.
So we started in Singapore, and like at the time when we sort of exited, the number of customers we had in Singapore was less than 100. We had tens of thousands of customers, and we had less than 100 customers in Singapore, right? So Singapore as a platform to launch a global business is very, very viable. The infrastructure support that you get and the business environment you have is just excellent. And in fact, as a young founder, and this is going all the way back to when you're young 20s, right? Singapore is because of the affordability, right? And no matter what those studies say about Singapore being the most expensive city in the world to live in, it's all not true. It's actually very affordable. And especially as a young founder with like living in your parents' home, like that's how we got through 2 years with $50,000. Like, we could not have made it through that initial phase if we didn't have the sort of support of the government, the school, and family to sort of to buffer the costs related to it, right? And I think I wouldn't do it anywhere else in the world. And the talent market in Singapore is difficult, it's tight, but it's the same with any other hub in the world. And I would actually argue that the quality of engineering that you can hire in Singapore and the region is not inferior to the quality you get here, to be honest. And it's just as difficult as here, right? And I actually think the engineers in here, I don't know. This is a controversial opinion, but like I find doing a lot of interviews with engineers both in San Francisco and Singapore, like the rock star mentality of engineers you get here is frankly quite irritating and hard to work with. Singaporean engineers are really a lot more humble, and that's my opinion. I don't know. Yeah.
I think short of kind of repeating it, right? It's like we've got the distribution networks, Google Play, App Store. You've got infrastructure to launch global internet services. You've got global talent in Singapore. You've got global venture capital. Like really, I think the world is our oyster in Singapore. Like we can truly build global internet companies from Singapore. I feel it will take a while to really build up a very mature ecosystem like Silicon Valley, but actually every ingredient is there and will be there.
All right, so as a closing question, right? So I'm just gonna use my privilege as a moderator to ask you guys a question. So not counting yourselves among here, right? Because I see a lot of young faces. If you were to recommend one company that they should work for in Southeast Asia, excluding yourselves here, who would that be and why?
Wait, let me look at my angel investing companies. Disclaimer is I invested in this company, but like Shopback is amazing. And why? They are one of those companies that I actually, as an investor, I should know this, but like they have crazy valuation now and crazy growth, right? The pace of their growth is something that the founders were all ex-Rocket Internet. And they kind of got the business development mindset and being able to push into all these frontier markets. And I think it's just like one of those companies I truly admire. I truly admire their ability to scale in the region and expand to markets. Like if you really wanted to learn about e-commerce, besides Carousell, I just couldn't say you because you are one of the three, right? Yeah, but Shopback's also an amazing e-commerce company that's experiencing hyper scale now that you can definitely learn a lot from.
Yeah. Like, how do I do this by not like, hey, talent is so competitive. I'm not just trying to think of like founders I truly respect. And one of those companies that really come to mind are actually the Shopback guys too. Just because they're one of like our litmus tests of a company that is probably going to be remotely successful is just how insanely focused they are on the work that they do, and the Shopback founders have a insane work ethic. I think the only other company that can rival them in the hours they put in, especially the founder level, is Carousell. Yeah. So and the next company that I truly respect would be them. Yeah, they're good founders.
Okay.
I disclaimer: I do not own any stake in Shopback. Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm getting carried though.
Okay, I don't know a lot of company, but I can recommend you to go to such kind of company. No matter what you do, I think you want to change a little bit of the world, to make some impact to the world. So, for example, for Bigo, you can make you can have the opportunity to make some impact to the world, and it is different. That the impact is not only one country; it's all over the world. Okay, thank you.
All right. With that, we come to our panel. this is what you hear before the drink, so imagine what you will hear after. So do catch up with them over the drinks, and then we'll see you back there. Thank you for coming here.
Thanks very much.
you.
Thank you.